Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this council meeting of the County of Lennox and Addington. It is our pleasure to be here on Amherst Island today. I will call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. On our agenda, we have two guests that are going to welcome us to the island, as well as some remarks from myself before we begin the formal part of the meeting. So I would invite the Amherst Island Recreation Association. Yeah.
My name is Lynn Lamega.
I'm Chelsea McDonald.
And we are part of the Amherst Island Recreation Association. And I'm going to give a little background on some programs that we run, and then or do you want me to do something? Up to you. So the Rec Association used to be the Rec Committee. It was very ad hoc. Rec Committee, we just wanted some sports programs here on the island. So in, I think it was 2018, 2017, we got together and we just started organizing things and renting the school. We used to do dances all the time. It was great. And then we kind of came into issues with the use of the schools. So the township swooped in, helped us out and got us an agreement with the school for use of the school. And so now we run programs, including sports programs like volleyball, youth volleyball, adult volleyball, pickleball, Zumba. We have run yoga in the past, soccer, all ages sports, 16 plus basketball, a winter walking club. Chelsea here has spearheaded drama workshops for the kids and youth art classes with volunteer art teachers right from here on the island, and monthly community cards and games nights, monthly yarn and yammer that Brenda would really like, and some summer baseball as well. The events that we run a few times a year, they're mostly social events, sometimes for fundraising. So we've done a community games night, fish fry and bingo, Canada Day, barbecue, music and fireworks we do every year. A few more dances, like an Island Autumn Hoedown last year. We had a double header, an 8-hour dance. June Jam way back before the pandemic, and New Year's dance. A Jingle and Mingle, which was sleigh rides, photos, and hot chocolate in partnership with the Amherst Island Women's Institute tree lighting. The Parade of Lights at Home was something that we started during the pandemic, just to kind of get some community engagement. You know, said, get some lights up, tell us where they are, and we'll make a map, and everyone go around to them. We did get the engagement. And also during the pandemic, we did a Halloween costume and pumpkin contest. So it was a photos online, just again, trying to engage the community. And Chelsea will tell you about it.
So our organization is made up of all of volunteers. We recently, in the last year or two, we've become a not-for-profit. So our organization only, because we're volunteers, we're limited on our time. So we really focus on things that are important to the community that we can provide. I just wanted to let you know what our mission statement is. So the Amherst Island Recreation Association is an exclusively volunteer-based association and is dedicated to fostering a vibrant and inclusive environment where individuals of all ages can come together and engage in enriching recreational activities. Our mission is to inspire and facilitate a sense of community spirit, well-being, and personal growth throughout the provision and diverse recreational programming by creating opportunities for social connection and physical activity, cultural exploration, and aim to enhance the overall quality of life of island residents, promote healthy lifestyles, and contribute to development of a thriving community. You'll notice tonight when people speak is that this really is a close-knit community. And as the Recreation Association, we're very thankful that we're able to provide these programs, as well as association with the Loyalist Township in partnership with providing those programs. Our funding, we do have a partnership with the township that provides us some funding, but most of it is through fundraising and grant opportunities.
And just one last note is that Chelsea is our chair and she's doing a great job. Thanks, everyone.
Next is the Amherst Island Agricultural Society. Bailey, be happy to know I did take council around to the pavilion.
I'm sorry, oh, you took
I took it, so they have seen it.
okay, well, that's good, thank you. I was hoping so, because there was no facility to show some photographs or anything, we're quite proud of that, but I thought maybe a bit of a history of the Agricultural Society might be of interest. So I'll try and be brief, but the earliest record we could find of an agricultural society event on the island was 1864. And that was a note in the Canadian Farmer magazine, and it said, following the usual dinner of the annual fall show, there was a bit of a controversy about who took the liquor and so forth. But that was a long time ago. We don't know where the fairs were held at that time because there was no fairground. 1921, the Agricultural Society acquired 7 acres, a little bit more in the village. And in 1927, another Tammany Express articles noted that now the Amherst Island Fair is recognized as one of the best one-day exhibitions in Eastern Ontario. So it obviously was very busy and active in that period of time. It appears that around 1946 was perhaps the last fall fair held on the fairground. I guess farming and following the war and so forth. We don't know the background. We don't have any real records of that. In the early 1960s, the remaining buildings that were on the fairground were removed, and the fairground was all tidied up. And basically, it sat there from then on. There may have been a few events with the 4-H club and so forth, but no fall fairs. And by 1970, the Ministry of Agriculture considered the organization to be dormant. So, over the years, a number of people felt that it would be useful to have access to the fairground, but because there was no official society and so forth, at that point it was difficult. So in 2018, a group of Islanders, working with the Ministry of Agriculture, managed to get it reestablished as an active organization again. And at the end of 2018, we had about 34 members with the new board of directors, sort of got things rolling. 2019, the first project the following year was to put in a parking lot, because at this point it was an open field with an access road into it. So it's directly behind Centennial Park. In 1965, I think it was, the Township of Amherst Island leased a portion of the park of the fairground to be Centennial Park. So, and that was a 99-year lease, which is still in effect. So 2019, we put a parking lot in, and then COVID in 2020. We planned to have an event in 2020, but that didn't happen. So 2021, we improved the parking lot, improved the access to the facility, to the park area, or the fairground, installed an electric service with a temporary, with an outside box, so we could have power there. And by that point, our membership was up to 98, so reasonable increase. In 2022, we had our first public event, probably in more than 50 years on the fairground. And that was July 1st horse bull competition. We had over 400 people attend. Great event. And so and the following year, 2023, trying to continually make some improvements to the fairground, we put a small storage container in to store any equipment we had. And we had an horse pole competition again on July 1st, which was again a success. But although we wanted to see the community use property more, we really had no facilities. And we felt that in order to make the property available and useful for the community, we needed some structure, some shelter and so forth. So late 2023, we started looking at the possibility of building a pavilion. There was a very variety of designs. At that point, we had a membership of 140 people. So obviously support the community. In 2024, in January, we applied for a capital grant through, well, what was at that point, I guess, Renewable Energy Vibrancy Fund. I think it's now a slightly different name in the township, but anyway, we received $280,000. And because we had to go through a site plan process, which took a fair amount of time, we weren't able to begin construction until October. But by the end of November, the basic structure was finished, other than the roof was the interior finishing work. However, first thing this spring, we were able to carry on, finally got the roof on, and it's now actually complete. It just finished this week. The last of the odds and ends are done this week. We have to do some final grading and put a walkway in the parking lot, a bit of work in the parking lot. The building itself is finished. So this is intended to be a multi-use structure for the community. And beginning of this year, we put out a request to the community and the surrounding area to people, if people would like to donate to help us finish the project. Anything that people could donate would be appreciated. We have received over $18,000. And in addition to that, we've had a lot of support from local businesses and so forth for work and companies and so forth. So anyway, our official opening is planned for the 14th. And we hope everybody will come out, have a good time. We have a number of activities planned now that we have some facilities. We want to start Saturday morning markets again, sort of a social get together, an informal market for folks on the island here, not with farmers market or anything like that. But in the past, there was a Saturday morning get together, which gave people a chance to socialize and so forth, and share a bit of produce. We have a music festival planned for August 2nd. And there are a number of other events and activities that are being considered. Few requests from the public to use the facilities, so we have great looks.
Thank you, Dale. So just for council's benefit, there were lots of organizations that wanted to present tonight. There's too many that be able to do that, but just a mention of a few shout outs. So there's the Back Kitchen, which we pass in the village. Back Kitchen is a not-for-profit community cafe running for many years now, the only food establishment on the island, a good provider of summer jobs through the Canada Summer Jobs Grant Program for the federal government to employ students in the summer so they can stay here on the island. Waterside Summer Series, world-class classical music right here on the island at a reasonable price. Again, a not-for-profit, been operating on the island for many years, a real sort of crown jewel. culturally, and for the county as well, not just for the island. The Nielsen Store Museum and Weasel and Easel, which we pass coming through the village. Amherst Island Radio, I pointed out, the Amherst Island Men's Society, the medical clinic, of course, we'll hear about a little later on. And of course, because I wanted officially on the record, also the Women's Institute, who fed us this evening a wonderful meal at St. Paul's. World-class hospitality. The pie was great. I told County Council that we take pie very seriously on it. And I want to say to the Women's Institute on behalf of County Council, congratulations for 125 years, the fourth oldest Women's Institute in the world. So our congratulations. So with that, we'll move to the formal part of the meeting, and I'll look for an adoption of the minutes of our regular meeting, April 16th. Councillor Fritz, seconded by Councillor Hogg. Any edits, errors, submissions? Call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. We have an agenda before us. Can I get an adoption of the agenda? Councillor Hagedorn, Councillor Wise, all those in favor? Motion is carried. I do have a rise and report. Oh, yes, sorry. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? General. Seeing, I do have a rise and report. County Council held a closed session meeting this evening at 6 p.m. During our closed session, County Council approved minutes from the April 18th, 2025 closed session meeting and discussed labor relations issues and a matter regarding identifiable individual. I have two motions coming from closed. The first I will read: the County Council ratifies the negotiated agreement with CUPE, which represents nursing and support staff at the county's John M. Parrott Center, covering the period from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. Can I get a mover to that effect? Councillor Wise, seconded by Councillor Calvin. Further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Second motion coming out of closed is that County Council ratifies the negotiated agreement with OPSU Local 457, which represents employees of the county's social services, covering the period from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2027. Effect, Councillor Calver, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Then we have the warden's reports. I'm going to move for Councillor Hogg, seconded by Councillor Fritsch. Any comments on the warden's report? I just have a few. So technically my activities of last week would be reported on next month's report, but I think because they're fresh in mind, it makes sense to mention them now. So last week I was joined by warden colleagues from across our region in the Eastern Ontario Warden's Caucus, held Advocacy Day at Queen's Park. They were very productive meetings, which culminated in a multi-minister delegation with the Premier. So these meetings give the EOWC an opportunity to share regional priorities with decision makers across government and the legislature. And they also provide an opportunity for us to hear firsthand what the government's priorities are and how municipalities feature as partners. Obviously, that's important considering we've just had an election. And then from Toronto to Milwaukee for the annual meeting of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. So council will recall my request for LNA to become part of this organization, given the importance of economic and environmental solidarity across the Great Lakes region, particularly at this tumultuous time, and particularly because the EOWC is providing leadership in this regard. So the organization does work to protect and advocate for the environmental and economic vitality of the millions of Canadians, Americans, and First Nations who live within the watersheds of what is the largest freshwater system on Earth, 21% of the world's freshwater resources right here. So this year's conference was focused on equitable and sustainable management of clean freshwater in a time of scarcity. And it was felt by all the conference that now more than ever, bilateral cooperation between Canada and the United States must be strengthened. And so whilst I was there, I was able to join Chair Bonnie Clark of EOWC and fellow Warden Brian Ostrander of Northumberland County as we signed an MOU between the EOWC and the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, advocating for continued free trade and bilateral cooperation between Canada and the United States. Frankly, it was an inspiring conference, made me very proud to be a municipal politician. As is often the case, municipalities are the ones moving the dial on the key economic and environmental challenges we face, and that the commitments are shared on both sides of the border. So it's very encouraging. We have a move and seconder for that. Any further discussion? John?
Yeah, just wondering what the relationship of that organization is to the International Joint Commission, or how their functions differ. Not looking for us in depth, but just your impression.
My impression is that the International Joint Commission has a larger technical role between the governments in different agreements. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is more on the advocacy side. But having said that, as we know, there's many organizations that do a lot of talking, but they are definitely an organization that does a lot of doing. So they're an advocacy group, but they also are a networking group to connect the people on the ground that are doing the various projects, best practices. Like the conference featured a lot of opportunity for municipalities that, let's say, are doing really interesting things with water and wastewater to showcase those and to provide a context where people can go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to bring that back, to our municipality.
Thanks.
For discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Please carry. So delegations, community paramedics.
Meeting board and council, and nice to not see record for meeting.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the paramedic program. I'm pleased to share how our team is working across Lennox County and in partnership with others to deliver healthcare that is proactive, accessible, and impactful. One of the number one questions we get is, what is a community paramedic and what do we do? So community paramedics are highly trained professionals who work outside the traditional paramedic role to deliver care directly in the community. We conduct in-home visits, provide health assessments, deliver vaccinations, and support people who face barriers to accessing traditional healthcare. Our goal is a proactive, preventative program designed to keep people healthy in home, reduce unnecessary hospital visits, decrease alternative level of care bed use, and strengthen local healthcare through collaborations. Our foundation and growth. The program, if some of you remember from County Council, was brought in a pilot project called the HIT program in 2020. And January 2020 through the High Intensity Supports at Home program. Since then, our services have expanded significantly to include point of care testing, remote patient monitoring, phlebotomy and vaccination services, palliative care services, mental health and addictions referrals. Today, our team includes 6 full-time community paramedics, an administrative support coordinator, and myself as the deputy chief. 100% of our funding comes from 2 streams. Those streams are the Ministry of Health or Long-Term Care Funding, or CPLTC funding, and through the Ontario Health MOH expansion or the previous history program. Our community impact in the fiscal year 2024-25, as we approach the provincial year, our team delivered 5,859 total patient visits, including over 4,300 in-person home visits to the residents of Lennox and Edmonton County. 307 people visited our clinics, 1,243 telephone conversations and follow-ups were performed, and 64 wellness clinics across the region. Our paramedics drove in 3 vehicles in excess of 113,000 kilometers last year. We are currently supporting 720 active patients. Specifically, that were on the island, on Amherst Island. So We created a partnership probably in late 2020, maybe 2021-ish, with the Amherst Island Community Medical Corporation or group. We've had monthly clinics since then held through in partnership with the Amherst Island Community Medical Clinic. In the last year, we've seen just over 93 clients in the clinic, including 80 home visits here on the island. There have been over 300 total interactions with members of the island community. We've produced 45 blood draws and 74 flu vaccinations and 72 COVID vaccinations just here in the island. I believe some of the group is here, so if you want to just wave your hand with that group in our collaboration, there we go. We look forward to strengthening that collaboration with the group. We've proposed and the group has accepted to become volunteers with the community paramedics, so that with that volunteer connection, they'll have more access and be able to share information back and forth in a little cleaner manner. In the last year, we've collaborated with the Global Crisis Response Team with the Ontario Provincial Police, our public health unit for vaccination clinics and naloxone distribution. With PELIS, with our community, the transitional housing program. We used to do a clinic once weekly there, and that will be restarting again shortly. And the Morning Star mission for weekly wellness checks there. Looking ahead, in the past year, there's been some changes with our group, and that's the biggest one is our move into the LATCO Community Health Home. So that was in partnership with Ontario, Ontario Health, who provided a grant to us to be able to retrofit a space in that building and get more equipment and be more collaborative and close with the family health teams. So that is recent, within April 14th. So once we are fully in swing there, we'd love to have council down to have a look and see what's going on in that facility. Recently, we submitted a funding proposal through OH, Ontario Health, with our local family health teams to fund one additional full-time community paramedic that would be fully embedded with the health teams in Albany and within the county as a whole. We did this, we thought it was a great opportunity to showcase what the community paramedics can do, and that the community paramedics are new, but the research is showing that an embedded community paramedic with a family health team allows physicians to roster at least 100 more patients per physician by reducing some of their workload off of the community. We're working with the Kingston Health Sciences Center as well as Lennox County Hospital for the cardiology outreach, supporting congestive heart failure patients in their homes. Providing the newest one for us is providing rabies post-exposure prophylaxis through a coordination with public health. And we've expanded our point of care testing equipment to include equipments that can do A1C, which is for diabetic management, as well as others. So in closing, community paramedic program is transforming how we deliver care in Lennox County. It supports our most vulnerable, fills gaps in the system, and ensures people can age in place. Thank you for council's support of the program, and we'll table any questions the council may have.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions? Thank you, and thank you to all the volunteers. Making a motion to receive the presentation. Councilor Davison, seconded by Councilor Calver. All those in favor? Economic development and tourism.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the warden for both sides.
Start, could you maybe turn around and face the audience?
Yes, I can't see that. Good, I was feeling kind of awkward. So yeah, thank you very much, I guess, to the warden for firstly the tour today. We had a great tour of the island, and
From a tourism standpoint, our brand is naturally LNA, and I think what we certainly saw today and what we market across our county speaks to what we're all about, and that is naturally and recreational, diverting, all the different things that are here on the island, but right across our county as well. So I'm with the Economic Development Office, and we really have kind of four main roles. We look at investment attractions, bringing new investment into our communities, new jobs. And we looked at, for people attractions, bringing new people into our communities. We do tourism, and then we do a lot of business coaching, which is all about helping our entrepreneurs be successful. And when you're talking about tourism, what you're going to talk about this evening in your packages is really some overview of different advertising that we do. Tourism is a really big driver of how we create awareness in Lennox and Ading County. And when you create awareness of a place, that actually helps us to attract investment, attract new people, attract visitors, get heads in beds, people visiting our stores, coming for events, cultural and heritage opportunities. So that really is, I would say, a big bucket of what we do from an economic development perspective. So tonight I'm just going to go through a little bit about what we do from a tourism marketing. We do a lot of work on digital, and I'll kind of go through some of the things that we're doing. You kind of tie that to what's happening here on Amherst Island, and again, tied to the tour and the great things that we saw today. So the first thing is, we haven't gone to naturallylna.ca. You should. That's the absolute best place to find all the information across our county. And to give you some idea on the absolute, or the engagement we're having on that website, the traffic that we're seeing. So in 2024, just under 900,000 people visited that site. So that's a 59% increase versus 2023. So we think that speaks to us becoming known and all the great things that are offered here within our community. So website visits are a big part of how we measure the successes of what we do from a marketing, the digital marketing perspective. So how do we get these people to the site? We really have kind of three main things that we do. Digital marketing, Google, Instagram, Facebook is predominantly our tools and our vehicles for that. We do quite a bit of contesting, which we'll talk about in a second as well. And we do a lot of emails. So if you happen to submit your email to us in any case, you may be getting weekly newsletters from us, and we use that to attract attention as well. So there's quite a few things that we really focus on from a tourism perspective, and we call them developed itineraries that we do. And they're very digitally focused of how we create eyes onto those web pages, but also meet people's feet on the ground here in Lennox and County and visiting our stores. So here's some of the things that we do. We have one of our themes, which is on the water. Certainly makes sense. We focus on kayaking and boating, but if you're looking here at Amherst Island, we focus on Sand Beach, and in Loyalist Township, from a boating perspective, Loyalist Cove, and all the great boating that is in this area around the island. We focus on back to nature. So cycling is a big part of that as well. So we have rural routes that we promote right on the island, and we have over a dozen different routes right across our county. We actually host 2 events per year that attract nearly 1,000 people each that come from all over Ontario and Quebec to ride the routes right across our county as well. We focus on farm experiences. So Topsy Farms is a prime example of that, and it is an attraction. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We have another itinerary called Sip and Savor. So that's all about our restaurants and our food. And Back Kitchen is located on that page, of course, and we do a lot of promotion of all our restaurants across the county. We have another itinerary called Raring to Go. So we very much focus on taking a ferry ride across Amherst Island, the dry stone walls that are here on the island. We have things to do with kids, and we focus a lot on history and heritage. So from that perspective, if you can go to our website and different advertisements that we do, you'll see information on St. Paul's, you look at the Nelson store, and even we've done some work with the local radio station here on the island, which this year we're actually advertising because it's such a great tool to get the story out locally, but also the viewership or the listeners that are there across our region as well. And then lastly, we do quite a bit of work with regards to event promotion. So Waterside Concert Series, of course, is a big hit here on the island, and a big hit for those that look to come to Lennox and County. So that's a little bit about our digital side. You'll see in the packages that we have multiple different ads that we use for each one of those itineraries. So again, they're across all our social media channels. And you can see some of the things that we focused on over the last little while, and actually some of the data and the engagement that's there in regards to how many people potentially click on and visit those sites. And again, the ultimate goal is to have those individuals visit us here in Lennox and Ading County. So I talked about contesting as being an opportunity for us to drive traffic, not only to our website, but also into our county. So every single year we do county contesting where we do giveaways. So get a free trip for 3 days in naturally LNA. And our contest every single year has 20,000 entries. And with that, we have 9,000 people that submit their emails. So why is it really important that we get emails submitted? It's because it allows us the opportunity to do what we call remarketing. So once we have that information, we're actually able to then understand what those individuals are interested in, because they give us permission to do that. And then we will actually every week do fairly tailored emails to each one of those individuals. And it could be about cycling, it could be about dry stone walls, it could be about any of the different assets we have here right across our county. So with that, we now have 25,000 subscribers to all our emails. So every single week, emails go out about events, activities, things to do. And Rob Plumley, who is really the guru of tourism here in Naturally LNA, spends quite a bit of time every single week really tailoring those and creating specific messages and content to get people to visit us here. And it's it's been extremely important to us, but also had huge dividends as we see engagement and traffic both on the sites and here in our county. This year as well, we'll be doing digital billboards. So, the big billboards that are on 401 right now. So within the next month, you'll see ads on Natural LNA that will be on those billboards. Again, promoting many of the itineraries that I talked about this evening as well. At the restart, I mentioned that we also do residential attractions. So one of the things that we do is really tie our tourism messaging into residential attraction, because we want more people living here. We want the skills that they bring, the wealth that they bring, and the diversity that can take place within our communities as well. So we have a lot of different advertising that's happening, and again, there's some examples of that within the package. We focus very much on build a life in Lennox and Ading County. We focus on affordability. And we focus on doing business here, because one of our big attractors is trying to tie in people to their entrepreneurial spirit and the business that they can bring into our communities as well. So we're seeing quite a bit of that right across the county. So the other thing that's going on right now, and you may have seen these, but so this is kind of tied to our Naturally LNA. So we have what originally started as Naturally, it's a local thing. So these are on display right across our county, and we ask most businesses and stores to put those in proudly. And tied to these, we do highlights and focused digital marketing on each business. So, for example, we did one just recently that ended up being, I think there was about 1,000 click-throughs and went to their website directly. We had about 5,000 people that actually looked at the post on social media. And we try to do that on a weekly basis, highlighting somebody with this in their hands and talking about their business, the story behind their business. And the example I just talked was actually a bookstore in town that did extremely well. And 1,000 clicks to their website results in sales at that bookstore. So then we put a little bit of different spin on it now with all that's happening with our friends in the United States. And we've now created these, which is naturally, it's a Canadian thing. So that just kicked off in the last 2 weeks. So we're gonna have both of these, hopefully in most of our stores and retail outlets and hotels and farm experiences right across the county. And you'll see this right now in our marketing campaigns, really focusing on the local story, but also the Canadian story, which is really, really important. So we want people, of course, to buy local, shop local, support local, but also think about Canada when they're doing that as well. So that's kind of on our marketing docket right now as we're going forward. A couple of things just to focus on. One of the things that County Council has done since 2019 is called the National LNA Activation Fund. So it's $40,000 that's available every single year, split evenly, $10,000 per local municipality. Where it's events that can help support, it's dollars can help support events, new products, tourism assets, multiple different things that help us to drive our Natural LNA brand and bring new people within our communities. So some examples from Amherst Island, Over those years since 2019, Topsy Farms has received funding, Dry Spring Festival has received funding, Waterside Concert Series, the Agricultural Society, just as a few that have benefited from council support of the Naturally LNA program. And these are things that help the event, the product, the activity, but also help us to spread the word from national LNA perspective. And then lastly, I guess I'd say that, I'm talking about businesses having these in their windows and all the different tourism operations that we have. We have a business coaching program, which the council is certainly well aware of. We have people on staff that will come out to businesses and help them with challenges, growth opportunities, expansions, and anything that's required. So I guess I would say to the audience here, please spread the word that that's available. We're quite happy to hop on the car and come across the ferry and talk to the businesses and do what's required to make sure that they're successful and to help them grow as well. So that's kind of an extremely big part of what we do on that economic development side of things here. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Oh, question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't have a question. I just wanted to remark on how effective Stephen and his staff have been in promoting all kinds of activity. My neighbor in Centerville, his farm is the start-off point for an annual bike tour, mostly in Stonehenge, I guess.
That's correct, yeah.
A gravel ride or something.
Yeah, it's coming up really shortly.
I think it was 2 or 3 years ago it started, and there were a few dozen people with bikes, and I'm farming and I see these people accumulate. Last year, there was maybe 100, 150, 200. This year, there are 500 people registered for this. We're going to have to maybe cap it at some point. It's going to become a traffic problem.
Yeah.
But when you promote things effectively, it's amazing how quickly they grow. So just congratulations to you and your department, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you.
Making a motion to approve the presentation, Councillor Calvert, seconded by Councillor Wise. Question, all those in favor? It's carried. Okay, matters for consideration. Number 1, request for support, correspondence, request for support on provincial advocacy effort from the mayor of the town of Greater Napanee. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And I guess I can start. Seeing as I authored the letter, I'll sign it. I'll start. Obviously, over the past number of weeks, be at the town of Greater Napanee, and I don't want to limit it to the town of Greater Napanee. It's happening in municipalities from Cornwall to Kenora in each province, are attempting to deal with an illegal encampment that's on private property. It's not compliant with respect to building codes, zonings, fire codes, even municipal bylaws, completely non-compliant to any of those things. But it's come to our attention that obviously through the county council, that funding is still being offered or given to folks that are residing in these unlawful camps. So what we've done and what we've asked to do is we've asked to have a meeting with the Honorable Michael Parza from the Minister of Children, Community Social Services, and the Honorable Robert Flack, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, to try and address this. In our opinion, it defies logic, the fact that we are trying to manage an illegal encampment or an illegal piece of property, but it's still being funded by the province through county council, through PELLAS. And so we've asked for a meeting, and we thought it by resolution, we've asked for a meeting with the provincial government, our provincial partners, but we've also offered that County of Lancs acting, because you are the folks, or we are the folks that are the ones that are giving the money out through PELLAS and through social services to that. So we've offered, or we thought would be right or proper to offer to the county to come along with us. And I know that our Chief Administrative Officer in the very near future is planned to have a presentation for PELLAS. Seeing this tonight may be a little preemptive. However, it is here. We are going to speak to it. I will speak to it. I'll try and answer any questions anybody has. That is the background on the letter that we've sent to the province. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions if there are.
I'll turn to council for any questions of Councilor Richardson off the top. So, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I guess my question has just maybe to do with the process. I understand this. The issue, should we be making a decision before we hear from Palace? I would think, and I'm not the one calling shots on this, Councilor, but I would think that would probably be appropriate to follow the chain of command or follow the process and allow our chief administrative officer to speak to Palace, to provide that information to Palace as to what we're dealing with. And I'm sure that through some form of resolution, they will come back to us. But that would be, I would look to Matt Clerk, I would look to the chief administrative officer to guide us on that. But that would be my thinking as well. Okay.
I'll turn to Sierra.
Just for clarity, when he's referring to chief administrative officer, he's talking about the township CAO, not myself.
That's correct. I should have.
So I would be clear which CAO we were talking.
Forgetting that we do have 5 of them in this. Thank you for clarifying that.
Councilor Wise.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just for clarity, for the public's sake, Terry, the funding that the county is providing is not to the encampment. It's to individuals for their living costs, which they are spending to rent space at a encampment on private property. Is that the gist of it?
That's part of the gist of it. Some of the funding is going directly to some of the folks that are living there. Some of the funding, if I'm not mistaken, is actually going to the landlord themselves directly to them, right? So in any event, how it gets there, and we've identified a number of things in this where we're just, it's not a matter of only being illegal, but it's also unsafe. It's completely unsafe. And I'll use the example that we're dealing with here in the town of Greater Napanee, but it's right across the province. And the fact that this specific site, if there was ever a fire up in there, and we know that a lot of the things that are going on up in there are not anywhere close fire codes, we couldn't even get a fire truck in. And because it's a trail that goes up in through the woods. So, dealing with the illegalities of it is one thing, but also dealing with the safety of it is a completely different thing. So,
thank you.
Virginia? You can speak from there.
Okay, thank you.
It's more convenient. So for everybody's benefit, Ms. Chenier is our Director of Social Services, so she should be able to provide some context as well.
So just for clarity, you're absolutely correct in that if someone applies for social assistance, being interior works, which is what we deliver at Palace, if they are able to provide verification that they are responsible to pay rent or other shelter expenses, disability, etc. Under the Interior Works Act, an amount is to be provided to them up to a maximum. So for a single person, that's $376 a month. We do issue funds directly to clients. We also issue funds directly to landlords based on the client's request. So someone will ask us to direct the payment directly to the landlord. As you said, Palace has no authority or training to determine safety of or legality of units. And in fact, we don't even visit units. So our applications are done in the office. Paperwork is provided to us to verify where they live and how much they pay, and assets and those kind of things. And funds are issued based on that information. So we don't see anyone's living conditions. We don't see if it's an apartment with 25 people living in it and it's 1 bedroom. We don't see if it's 5 bedroom. We don't see if it's a huge home or a small home. We don't see if it's small or safe or not safe. And that's not within social services purview. So our purview really is to support people to remain housed, have discussions with them about, if someone is homeless, why are you here in that venue? What brought you here? What drew you here? Do you have connections here? Where do you have connections? Are you interested in going back and returning to those connections? Because those are great supports for you. So we have those conversations every time we meet with someone who's not, who has no permanent housing. And that's, we're a supportive agency, we're not, an enforcement agency, and we have no tools or resources to be an enforcement agency. So really our position is, we're supporting some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And they're living there because they can't afford to live elsewhere. Or there's also a multitude of other reasons why someone is living in a condition such as that. But we can't monitor it, we don't have the ability, we don't have the enforcement capability, and we don't even see the units or properties at all. So we're just coming from a place to have discussions with clients, offer supports, and go from there.
Thank you, and to you, Mr. Ward, and that's exactly why we've reached out to our provincial partners. Obviously, there's, in our humble opinion, that there's deficiencies in the Ontario Works Act, because, again, it applies in the face of common sense in the fact that money is going out the door without any due diligence being done. And we understand that the Ontario Works Act, which is a 1997 provincial statute, we feel has some deficiencies in it. And that's why we want to reach out to provincial partners, the people that make the laws, that are the provincial government that makes the laws, and say, listen, this flies in the face of everything that you're trying to do to get people out of encampments and into housing. But you're supplementing folks to live in environments that just aren't safe. And I would go one step further and say, in most cases, are dangerous. We at the town of Greater Napanee are using all the tools available to us to try and rectify this problem. And I made the comparison to someone the other day that it's like trying to rebuild an engine with a hammer, a screwdriver, and an adjustable wrench. Those are the tools that we have, and we've been asked to rebuild an engine. And so what we're doing is we want to go to the provincial government. We want to speak to the lawmaker and say, listen, this defies logic. We think some changes would need to happen. And because county council and Pellets is the administrators, or at least are involved in the chain to administer these funds, we thought it was appropriate. We would at least have the offer for representation from county council to come along with us if and when we're presented with an opportunity to speak to provincial partners. Yeah.
Just want clarification, Lynn, if you could provide to council, the types of funding that an individual might have coming in that's living in an encampment like that. It's not always Ontario Works, correct? So addressing this one sliver of the issue will not necessarily solve the encampment problem. And if you could just speak to that.
That's correct. So my understanding is there are roughly 20 people living in this encampment on private land. Less than 6 are known to our office. So that's still 15 or 14 people who would not be receiving social assistance from our office. So they could be receiving family pension, or receiving insurance board benefits, or security, guaranteeing or income supplement. They could be working. It's not going to get rid of a private encampment or the ability for people to pay at an individual encampment.
And just to follow up, I don't think any of us are naive enough to think that one incident is going to change this world, because we know that it isn't. But the way we look at it, this is another tool. So this is a ratchet set that's going to help us rebuild this motor, because all we've got is a hammer, a screwdriver, and an adjustable wrench. So I think nobody is naive enough to believe that by changing the Ontario Works Act, it's going to fix all the problems, because we know that it's not. But it may help us fix some of the problems, and that's what we're hoping to do with the partners. So. Other questions? Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to Councilor Richardson. I just wanted to get some clarification. Most of the items that have been mentioned in the 4 bullets in the letter typically are dealt with bylaw enforcement. With wood burning, combustible materials, things like that. I'm assuming, and typically bylaw enforcement deals with the property owner instead of the residents in a case like this. So I know there's confidentiality around it all with bylaws, so I'm not looking for details. I'm just thinking, I'm assuming bylaw has been working on this, and is there conceivably a way to address it through bylaw with the owner instead of through funding to it?
I think it's fair to say that the town of Greater Napanee are using all the tools that we have in order to rectify this problem. I can assure you of that. However, just those tools alone aren't sufficient enough to not only solve this problem, but there's many others that are going to come down the road. Right across this province, in varying degrees and varying instances, this very thing is happening. It's happening in Bancroft. It's happening in Hamilton. It's happening in every municipality. And it may be a slightly different angle in which we're dealing with it in the town of Greater Napanee. It could be happening in the other three board governments that are sitting here today in a very different sort of angle. But what we're saying is that it doesn't make sense to us that one arm of the government is helping to supplement, to pay for these things, while another arm of government is trying to fix it. We've got to start working together with this. We really do. And that's all we're asking. We're asking to have a meeting with our provincial partners to try and find a solution to this, because like I say, on the surface of it, it just doesn't make sense to me. And we've banged this around. I know we've had a couple of conversations around this horseshoe about this, about liability, about the Ontario Works Act, and what Palace has the ability to do, what Palace doesn't have the ability to do. And so the obvious next step is that if there's flaws within the act itself, let's fix the act, or at least speak to the people that have the ability to fix it. And that's what we're attempting to do. So thank you.
Good questions, so Councillor Richardson. Councillor French.
I won't take up any more time. We have a lot on our agenda, but just thinking about the very north end of our municipality, where we have people that are, for example, living in travel trailers in some pretty tough conditions. Trying to tie them getting some funding through Ontario Works to saying, okay, you can't live there, well, they have nowhere else. It's not that simple, right? So let's not get into that whole discussion, but this is a very complex, all that, right, issue. And there's not one answer for that'll work across the board. I don't think cutting off the funding for people I know in those conditions is going to solve anything. That's just my comment. It won't be the solution. It might be an impetus, but it won't be this.
And I don't think any of us are naive enough to think there's a quick fix on this thing, because there really isn't. However, this is another piece to that puzzle that we believe is going to assist us. Every municipality has. I'm sure Addington Islands is the same as Town of Greater Napanee, it's the same as Loyalist, it's the same as Stone Mills. There's folks living in travel trailers in parents' backyard, or they're living in a shed that their parent has erected and living in the yard. We're not saying we're going after everybody. We're going after the worst of the worst, the ones that are extremely dangerous. And the example that we have is it's extremely dangerous. Not only dangerous for the folks that are living there, it's dangerous for the folks that are responding. Fire truck can't get in there. And knowing the firemen, the firemen and women right across this province will crawl over broken glass to get there. But it might not be safe for them to do it. And that's what we're dealing with, is that not only is it the risk of the folks that are living there, it's the risk of the responders, it's the risk to the neighbors, it's the risk to a lot of other things. And so, again, I'm not naive enough to think that I'm going to solve all the world's problems. However, we do have to deal with the worst of the worst. And again, supplementing or funding something that another level of government has identified as being illegal and unsafe. Just boggles my mind, so, but thank you for bringing that up.
Councilor Covey, through your work, I also think that we're not talking about individuals living in trailers and stuff, like we're talking encampments. Illegal encampments that went every aspect we could possibly do to try to get the compliance. That once you know that somebody's got a wood burning stove in a travel trailer, and you don't try to make that compliant, something goes haywire, you're responsible. And I think we're talking about encampments here, if I'm not correct.
Yes, and safety and legalities as well.
Yes.
Looking for any final comments or questions? So, Councilor Richardson, based on Councilor Fritch's question to you about time and process, to wait until the town's CAO presents to Pellis and gives the full picture. Is that?
I think we're kind of putting, and we've had this conversation before, I just think we're putting the cart on the horse. We don't allow the folks that are administering the social services an opportunity to hear what's going on. So,
Yeah.
And I know that, I think there's a policy meeting in June. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the chief administrative officer from the town of Greater Amherst is going to be attending that. So, my humble opinion, I think it would be appropriate to follow that process, that protocol.
And then this will inevitably come back.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so then I'd look for a motion to receive for now. Councilor Fritch, second by Deputy Warden. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Councilor Richardson. Okay, strategic planning updates. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So council has before you our 6-month update on the strategic plan for the benefit of the public here. With our new council, every time we swear in the new council, we do a new strategic plan. And every 6 months we create an action plan, and every 6 months we bring it back to council with our updates from each department on our progress on the strategic plan. So council has a very detailed action plan in front of them. We color code it so that any new items, any new information, the font is in red. So if you're looking it up on the agenda online, you can see the actions and you'll see the red font. That's the new additions or new entries. So basically, I'm just asking council if you have any questions for the directors on the content and the update for the strategic plan action plan.
Thank you, Ms. Orchard. I'll look to council. Questions on the strat plan update? Very well, I take a motion to open the seat. Councilor Calver, seconded by Councilor Davison. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Strong mayor powers, an exciting topic.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Gordon. So as council is aware, strong mayor's powers were expanded to 169 additional municipalities in Ontario, including Loyalist Township, Town of Greater Napanee, and the Township of Stone Mills. These powers came into effect on May 1st. The county's integrity commissioner is Aridin Burles, and John Mascarin is one of the partners there. And he has written a paper that's pretty well known across the province and been circulated across the country about strong mayor's powers. He is now doing presentations for different counties, and what he does is comes into the county or does it virtually, and they do it for all their lower tier councils. So knowing this, we wrote this report wondering if council may wish for us to have John Mascarin do this as a virtual presentation. Even though Addington Highlands does not have strong mayor powers at this time, we would suggest that those councillors, of course, would want to come because we don't know it could be expanded again. Since this report was authored, we have received notification from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs that they are going to be offering some training on strong mayor's powers too. And that will be available to all municipalities also. So it's just here for council. We wonder, does council wish us to hire John Mascarin to do a presentation for the 4 lower tiers? all counselors. It would be virtual. Cost is $2,300 for the presentation, and it would be budgeted from $1,500 in a county council lower tier relationship building fund, and the rest would be through the council training budget. So I'd be pleased to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council. Councilor Richardson.
I mean, I can speak for myself, our municipality, and thank you, Madam Clerk, for mentioning the fact that the provincial government has offered up a strong mayor framework technical overview. It's being presented by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, Housing, Local Government Division, and Municipal Housing Operations Division. It's offered up to municipal elected officials, clerks, treasurers, CEOs in all of the 170 mayor municipalities. As much as I appreciate and thank the offer, I don't think we need to do that enough, because anybody that needs any information, you can obviously get that through the Strong Mayor's framework technical overview. That's going to be presented on Thursday, May 29th, or on Monday, June 2nd. So I'm sure it's probably better just to hear it right from the horse's mouth. So, so to say. So I don't think we need to spend $2,300. That's just my opinion. So thank you.
And Councilor Richardson. Others, Stephanie.
Just on behalf of Leyland Township, basically the day we were notified powers were enacted, we started dealing with John. So, we've already been working closely with him and with other municipalities, so, I'm not sure if it would be, the value would be there for the dollars spent, especially when there is more training that, I'm probably going to be signing after the second session. So even if we wait until after that to see if there's questions, and also be able to talk to our CAOs too and senior staff to make sure that everyone's.
Councilor Wise.
Stone Mills agrees. We want as little to do with the strong mayor powers as possible. Understanding what it's all about is fine, but we're going to be doing the absolute minimum required in this regard. And I think as Terry pointed out, we can get the information from online presentations. So thanks, but no thanks. I think it's our response.
Councilor French.
Say, for Addington Highlands, currently we're not affected by it, but it could be, but I believe at this stage it's premature for us. It looks like it's coming down, then we will be looking for information.
Very well. I'm sensing a consensus. So in that case, I'll simply take a motion to note this. Councilor Wise, seconded by Councilor Calver. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Delegations for AMO.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So it's that time of year again. We were talking about the AMO conference in August in Ottawa, and whether council wants to submit any requests for delegations. We have two possible suggestions from staff. Both of them are related to EMS, which is to get some confirmation from the province that the community paramedic funding will be permanent at 100%. Just for the public's benefit, the 911 side of paramedics is funded 50-50. County pays 50, province pays 50. Right now, community paramedicine is 100% province. We would like a permanent commitment that it will remain at 100% province, and we won't get a surprise 50% tab. So that would be one possibility. Another possibility would be WSIB costs. All EMS departments are facing increased rising WSIB costs and delays in processing because of the staffing required. Do you know paramedic services have presumptive legislation for TSD, which impacts on the WSIB costs? Those are two possibilities. It doesn't mean that you have to agree or want to submit for those. You also might have some of your own ideas of topics that you want to submit for. These are just two possible suggestions. So we'll just open it up to you, council.
Council, what would you like to do? Councilor Wise.
Well, I certainly support the community paramedic funding. It's a no-brainer. It saves the province money, so investment in that program makes sense. So I would certainly support that one. I don't know enough about the WSIB costs to comment.
Thank you. Similar to Councilor Wise, I understand committee permitting funding issues, so yeah, I would support that. Or it is, okay. But here's a little knowledge.
Deputy, I saw you.
I'm gonna go to motion, that's all.
Okay. Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
I would move to vote receive and that council directs staff to complete delegation request or during PMO for community paramedic funding and WSIB.
So moved. Is there a seconder for that? Councilor Calvin. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Vehicle replacements. And back to the chief.
Even through your board to council, similar to previous years, we submit a report to pre-budget purchase our capital assets for next year. In particular, the ambulances. This allows us to be in the queue, so to speak, particularly with the trade and tariffs challenges that we're all experiencing with supplies. There are obviously national advocacy groups working to ensure that vehicles are exempt from the tariffs, given their medical necessity. So there is work on the national level in that respect, but in locally, we need to get the authorization to commit to purchase two ambulances. Get this out of the queue, get the vehicle in March rather than December of 2026, which prolongs the life of the existing vehicle, which is maintenance costs. So it's a benefit.
What?
I'll just make the motion that the recommendation be implemented.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Davis. Further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Medical tiered response.
Just similar to the previous agreement that we brought forward to council. Council has to authorize the agreement. We work in collaboration with Stone Mills to support their needs and wishes in response to medical first response. And they presented us with a report which we completely support and agree with, and therefore council, county council will enact that and will make those changes at the dispatch level.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? This note received. Councilor Calvert, seconded by Councilor Hogg. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
John Amherst Center, new position.
So just for context, I'll start with that we currently have a manager of nursing. And she looks after oversees the entire department. Then we have an assistant manager of nursing. That assistant manager of nursing, out of the 35 hours per week that she works, 26.25 hours are required for the Fixing Long-Term Care Act to be dedicated to IPAC alone. She's currently not able to meet those requirements while also supporting the manager of nursing in her role. So this is not new. The Fixing Long-Term Care Act set out the 26.25 hours, and we were honestly just trying to make do. We did bring on a clerical support person for the manager of nursing. That certainly did help. But we're also, of course, to get us to the 4 hours of care. We're also hiring a lot of individuals, and hiring people takes a significant period of time, and it is an ongoing venture that I know will continue given the other area long-term care homes that are also being built. So we're probably going to see some turnover. And so to be able to sustain that is going to be very challenging. I have shared with you in the past that we are going through the RNAO best practice spotlight organization, as well as developing our clinical pathway tools. And that is also something that is very important for us to do. It's going to drive a lot of really good initiatives for the home, and which will benefit our residents substantially. We currently have just over 40 students doing some form of their placement at the Para Center right now. That is incredible. It's a wonderful pipeline into our home, which is also fantastic. but that requires also a lot of management and a lot of oversight on the manager's part. It also requires effort from the staff's perspective. And so making sure that we're getting the right information, we're hiring the right individuals that the Parrott Center wants to have looking after our residents. So with all of that, we are required to support, of course, 168 residents. That also comes with a significant number of families, some very large families, broken families, families that are struggling to talk to each other at all. And so we become a bit of social work for them and to try to navigate for them. It's very time consuming. I did try to lay out for you, and I laid it out in two different fashions around what the role would be. Largely, I would see this RPN, so it's an RPN position, not an RN position. I would see this position as supporting the current RPNs that we have in the home and developing their leadership, doing mentoring and coaching. But then they would also be supporting the PSWs in their routines and making sure that the basic things are being done. And the benefits I see from that is that we would then be able to not be as reactive and problem solving or trying to solve complaints and rectify situations that really shouldn't have been a situation. They should have just been a conversation at the start, or they should have just followed the routine that's been established already. And so trying to navigate that and be a bit more proactive, I think would be helpful for us. It will be helpful for the residents. It will help to build a better relationship with our families. Not to say that we don't have a good relationship, but it will build a better relationship. And this is a place where people are coming and we're seeing them, some of them on their worst day, because it's a really tough move into long-term care. And so it takes a long time for us to support them and to build a trusting relationship for us to be able to look after their loved one. And so it's really important that as a home that we're able to provide those supports. Thanks. I think any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm. Council, questions? We have a recommendation. Would like to see the recommendation. Councillor Hogg. Councillor Hogg moves the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Fritsch. Discussion. Other than how appreciative we are, Ms. Malcolm, for all that you do for JMPC. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Social housing bill. Mr. Way.
Well, as per council direction in September 2024, staff met with 3 municipalities so far. We met with Stone Mills, Lewis Township, and Addington Highlands. We did reach out to the town of Greater Napanee, and they are currently doing a surplus property assessment and have hopefully we'll have that completed in June of 2025, and then schedule a meeting with us once that report is complete. So as part of the council direction, staff are going to meet with municipalities and look for partnership program where the local municipalities would donate land for a social housing bill, for a high density social housing bill. And we have $225,000 in the budget for 2025 for up to 3 development properties that can be made shovel ready. So that includes purchase of the property, any environmental studies, geotechnical report, permits, rezoning, everything except the design of the actual building will be included in those costs. I'm not going to go over each of the properties, but the reason why I am bringing this to council at this point in time, my intent was to bring it to council after meeting with all the municipalities. Lewis Township has a housing accelerator fund. And part of their deadline is to have a property, if we're partnering with municipality, in part of their funding program, mentioned that they have, they have a partnership with the county of Lennox and Addington. So we have to give them, an answer, before June of 2025, if we want to partner with them on that. And they do have 204,000 in additional funding to go towards the units or the build, and that's if we build for unit building or larger. The properties, as mentioned before, were scored, and the scoring is based on the proximity to services, banks, schools, pharmacies, etc. The number one property is the one on Church Street or on County Road 7, just north of the public school. The second one was in Tamworth, adjacent to the recent fourplexes that were built in 2022. And the third one is 231 Amherst Drive. Happy to answer any questions should council have anything, and if Scott wants to expand on anything for social services on the scoring, he can do so.
I don't think I can remember. What we use, actually, just make a comment. The scoring system we use is a Mr. Gordon, through you to the rest of the committee. Public schools, you have first time in a long time. Okay, so what we use scoring that CMHC uses when they award funding for projects. So we thought we'd use the same scoring. If you're wondering how we came up with this.
Questions? Yeah, that's a question. Mr. Ward.
Jim, is it reasonable for us to, because we're waiting for the report information from Napanee, to select one of these tonight and just defer the rest? Is that an option?
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Ward. You can select one, you can select three, or not select any at all. It is purely, and a further report can come should you choose to choose a property within Loyalist Township. If that's the reason why the report is coming now, it's time sensitive, and they need an answer as part of the check boxes before they go on to the next stage for funding. They need to decide whether we're moving forward with a partnership with us or not. Or sorry, they need to decide.
And then that'd be helpful in the process, not detrimental to the other three municipalities in any way, right? I mean, obviously, they rank very high.
That's correct.
Okay.
Question. Council want to do? Councilor Wise?
So clearly the Church Street property already ranks at the top here. And there's the bonus that Loyalist has some money as well. It would seem, just from an objective standpoint, that recommending that property should definitely be on the list. I'm not quite clear on what's involved in putting more properties on the list. It's highly unlikely that we'll be able to afford to do any more than one project at this point. But are you fellas just looking for a selection of properties to consider next kind of thing?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, we're looking for a list of properties to move forward with the shovel-ready project. We don't know what's coming down for funding. It could be some funding from the province, from the federal government. We don't know, but we want to be ready. And a lot of the funding, similar to the road reconstruction funding, you have to have the ownership of the property in order to receive the funding. So this is kind of the first step that we want to make sure that we have property identified. That also gives a tool in your toolbox that should council decide to put money aside and commit to a building, whether it's a fourplex or a 60-unit high-density building. We have the options there to address social housing and the increase in that. So at this time, we're just looking for direction as to which property council would like us to move forward with from the properties that were being donated by municipalities. And once we start that process, and again, that could be one or that could be three as per council direction as per the September report in 2024.
Yeah, well, I mean, just looking at the rankings, Church Street and Tamworth are at the top of the list. Number 7 is also a loyalist, but perhaps in the interest of spreading things around, we should look at the Northbrook one as well. I don't know how to do this in a really fair way, but that would be my suggestion. Would be Church Street, Tamworth, and perhaps look at Northbrook or just have 2. That's tossing that one up there, not as a motion, but as a start off to the discussions.
Councilor Weiss, Councilor Richardson, and then I'll come to the scale.
Obviously, there's a funding opportunity for this. I'm gathering that that's not probably available to the other municipalities. Am I correct there? So I guess I hate to get horse in the mouth, and I'm a little reluctant to pick one of the 3 other loyalists. I would be more comfortable committing that there are 3 loyalists we could access the funding for, but I don't want to pick one tonight. So is it possible that we commit to the 3 in loyalists, because obviously the funding opportunity doesn't exist in the other 3 municipalities. It doesn't exist in our municipality. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I'm not sure whether it exists in Loyalist or in Stone Mills or Addington Highlands, but if it sounds to me that we're in a bit of a time crunch with respect to timing, that we have to make a decision with respect, or Loyalist has to make a decision by June of 2025. Am I correct there, Councillor Hagedorn?
Yes.
So if we don't commit to something for Loyalists, we're not going to have access to that fund. And then, so it could be 2 months down the road that we may end up deciding to go with one of the properties in Loyalist. But now we haven't got access to funding, I guess. I hate to give up funding opportunities if we don't have to. And any of the properties in the list are viable, it looks like. I just don't want to pick one tonight, I guess.
The CAO feels she's got things clear, some things.
I just want to make sure, council, I just want to remind you, when we did budget in February, you set $75,000 for 3 different projects to create shovel-ready projects. Airtan, I think, was in different municipalities, just to get them shovel-ready, so that if a government grant comes available that we could take advantage of. Often they only give us like 3 weeks to submit something. So we have something shovel ready that is done and the basic work is done so that we could quickly jump on a grant program. So that's what we were talking about. So there is no pressure to pick 3 today. It is just, if we want to designate one for loyalists so that they can move forward with their paperwork on the project. But I just want to tie back your thinking back to your budget where you said 75,000, you're willing to put 75,000 towards creating 3 shovel-ready projects so that we can take advantage of grant programs.
So let's make it simple. Let's recommend Church Street so that loyalists can take advantage of this funding, and we can look at the other 2 at a later time. Maybe at that point, Napanee will have some appropriate sites to submit as well. Does that make sense? That's my motion.
Councilor Richardson? If I may, Mr. Warden, and I appreciate the scoring process that has gone into this. I'm just thinking of the folks. Is there any public consultation that's going to be done with respect to any of these properties? I would suspect that there probably should be some, and so committing to one, I just don't think it's necessarily fair to the township or to the township's folks that we commit to one when actually there's 3 of them that are viable, really. So.
Yeah, right. I can speak to that. Okay. The one site in Loyalist, 363 Amherst Drive, that would take longer to get ready because it's actually property on the back of a fire hall. We're also doing our fire master plan right now. So until we get the outcome from that plan, that will determine if this can actually be surplus or if there may be a future use for the fire department. So although we declared it surplus land, we aren't ready to move forward with the severance until we get the fire master plan done to ensure. So that brings it down to 2 properties within Loyalist. I just wanted to put that in there. That would be a longer term property for us to get shovel ready.
Thank you for that.
So can I modify my motion to recommend 231 Amherst Drive and Church Street? What works best for you folks really in Loyalist?
They both work about the same. It's just the size of Church Street is a little bigger and it met the criteria more for the services in the traffic and
just through you, Mr. Ward, just for clarification, our discussions were the intent was that council wanted 3, like 1 in each like different municipality. So doing 2 in Loyalist, like I don't know if like that was discussed with staff. I'd have to go back to Loyalist Council. I'm not sure if they're prepared to donate 2 properties. So that would have to be a question to go back to Loyalist Council.
Well, the intent right now was to get a site, 1 or more eventually. So all we're doing here is what we're specifically doing is getting a site shovel ready, and the site Church Street in Loyalist, from what I read, is the top ranking site in Loyalist to get shovel ready, and that allows them to proceed with the grant issue. So there's nothing lost in making a decision to go with 1 in Loyalist, wait for the information from AMD, and then make a decision on 1 or 2 more. Right? Is that's correct? Yes. Nothing lost in doing that. So
what's the purpose of my motion?
That's what you're.
Yeah.
So it's for Church Street.
Yeah.
Only.
I'll take the motion.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll look for a second there. I was pretty sure there'd be one. That's Councilor Fritz. Okay, further discussion on that. Okay, question, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, stop sign bylaw.
Yes, through you, Mr. Ward. I'll just point out that once the roundabout was constructed at the intersection of County Road 6 and 23, it was an all-way stop. So we have to revise our bylaw to remove the all-way stop and add yield for that bylaw. So that is why this is coming forward to council. Happy to answer any questions from council.
Any questions for Mr. Wagner? Recommendation is to note and receive. Deputy, seconded by Councilor Hogg. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Stormwater management.
For you, Mr. Ward, this is now a requirement as part of our consolidated linear infrastructure environmental compliance approval, or CLI, ECA. It's a lot easier for me. So this is a report we have to file with the ministry every year now. And it is the status of our stormwater system. Doesn't include ditches. It's just mainly our storm system that we have to do monitoring and condition assessments and report on. You will see money for the monitoring being added into the 2026 budget so that we can work with school or work with a private firm and look at our inlets and see what is being put back into the drainage areas where we outlet. At this time, we don't have any outstanding items other than we're not doing the monitoring, but we're waiting for the ministry to publish their guidelines before we know what they want to see monitored. So that's why you haven't seen it. So should the ministry release their guidelines before the 2026 budget, then staff will put money in the proposed 2026 budget that will be presented to council to complete that works. Happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Questions? Recommendations to vote C, Councillor Calvin, seconded by Councillor Davison. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Project funding application, but late entry.
Yes, I do apologize for the late entry. Again, through you, Mr. Warden. This is requesting staff direction to apply for funding. This is a partnership with the town of Greater Napanee under the health and safety water stream. That includes your water mains or your water system, your sanitary system, as well as a stormwater system. We have Center Street or County Road 41 planned in the town of Greater Napanee. All of those systems are within the right of way, basically between the curb and gutter on either side. So replacement of those systems would include the replacement of the curb and gutter and the asphalt as well. I believe it's up to 73% funding, which we would receive from the province, which means the county would be eligible for 73%. So we have to fund the remaining 27% of the overall cost. Right now, we're anticipating 3.3 million for construction in 2026 and 2027 for that road section. Should we receive funding, obviously we only have to pay 27% of that. So happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Just briefly, I think we're going to fairly take the timeline for this, well, are we not?
We are, that's why I couldn't wait till the June, because it's due like the week of our council meeting, so that's why it's. And we looked at all of our projects and discussed it with municipalities and in review it met with the town of Greater Napanee's infrastructure timing as well as the best project.
Yes, I'm happy to make a motion. It's always good to make a motion to apply for money.
Amen. Moved by Councillor Wise, seconded by Councillor Hogg. Any further discussion? Question, all those in favor? Thank you, Mr. Wagger. Advisory Committee recommendations and reports.
Nothing to add.
I get a motion to receive that. Councillor Davidson, seconded by Deputy. All those in favor? Carries. Back. I don't have anything that we add. Any questions? Motion from Councillor Wise. C, seconded by Councillor Fritsch. All those in favor? Motion is carried. JMPC compliance. This mountain always has stuff.
Sorry. Something bad.
No, that's good.
Okay, so I'll just walk you through the report. You can see that we this month had seven. What am I doing here? 2 people came from hospital, and we had 3 that came from their private dwelling with home care services in place, and then 2 that moved in private home care without any home care services. And then we had a really good month for respite services with 4 people doing that service, which is great for the community. We did have 6 deaths and 1 person moved to a home that was closer to their family. So. As far as staffing goes, we have been adapting all of our job routines to suit the 4 hours of care. I did mention earlier that we have 40 students, PSW, largely PSW, we have some RPN students as well. And I've listed the various schools that they have come from. We have 17 in our PSW living classroom on site, and there are of the 17, 10 of them are doing their clinical placements at the Parrott Center. Others are doing it elsewhere. And so that is really good. So that program will finish in June. And then they've already almost filled 20 spaces for the September intake of the PSW living classroom. As far as Ministry of Health or Ministry of Compliance, we had them in April. They reviewed 3 critical incidents, one involving a fall, one involving alleged staff to resident abuse, and one involving alleged neglect of a resident by staff. There were 0 findings, and they were very pleased with the documentation and the care and the understanding of this of the individual residents. They were very complimentary. We did not have the Ministry of Labor in this month. I can show you in the quality indicators that we are doing really, really well in the indicator that I'm most proud of in terms of the antipsychotic in the home. So this means that residents who should not be receiving an antipsychotic are not receiving one. By not receiving one, it means that they are having clarity of thought, they are very likely more stable, and the interventions that are non-medicinal are actually very effective. So that's a really positive indicator to really keep an eye on. Some of the other indicators depend on the admissions that we're having into the home and the decline that we're seeing across the resident population. So for the months of May until August, we will stop reporting on the flu shot, of course. The COVID vaccinations have been very stable and at 85% of our resident population. That will be an ongoing figure. We will always be going back to our residents and families to ask if they would like to have a booster shot. We are sitting at 8 outbreaks for the year of 2025, well, 7 of them being enteric. And because of the vast number of new staff that we're seeing in the home, we have been really focusing on doing our emergency drills because it's obviously safer to do an emergency practice when it's not an emergency. And then we're doing thorough debriefs with staff and they are finding significant benefit from doing that. And our residents, because again, we're seeing a lot of turnover, our residents are participating in the drill and being an active part of what that will actually look like for them to come out of their room and come down the hall and what that kind of chaos might feel like for them. And so they also are very happy. Interesting. How do you take any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Questions from council? Seeing none, I take a motion. C, Councilor French, seconded by the deputy. For discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Committee reports by members of council. Are there any reports, members of council on various committees? Seeing none, we'll move to activity reports. We'll start with admin services.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything else to add, but I'm happy to answer the questions, Councilman.
Seeing none, we'll move to financial services. Mr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing further I'd like to highlight in the report, but I'm happy to answer the questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Day? Seeing none, social services, Ms. Shen.
Thank you, George. I have nothing to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer the questions that council may have.
Questions for Ms. Shen? Seeing none, community and development services.
Just 2 quick things to highlight. We had a tourism bus tour for local businesses that happened on May 14th. So we had 30 people on the bus that traveled around to local tourism assets to make sure that they can basically recommend those and people come into their restaurant or their stores. And then secondly, we had our first meeting for our agricultural land advisory committee, so our volunteer committee that was approved by council to place on May 5th. That's a good starting meeting for us. We have our next meeting on June 23rd, where the group will be rolling up their sleeves and getting into the mapping and a lot of the work needs to be done on the analysis of agricultural land in the county. Thank you.
Councilor West.
Yes, thank you. Through you. Will there be minutes for that their committee meeting available, Stephen?
I have a memo that was created by our consulting team, so I'd be happy to share that with council.
Yeah, I think that would be of interest. And are those meetings open to the public, or is that basically a closed meeting?
I guess officially they're open to the public. We haven't promoted that.
You haven't published the agenda and made notice of the meeting or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No. And I guess probably we didn't call it for public participation in that and that volunteer group that was named by name. So.
Right.
Okay, long-term care.
I just wanted to promote the PSW Living Classroom graduation. Hopefully you received your invites in the mail, or you will be receiving them in the mail. And that it's June 26th at 11 o'clock. It'll be on the front community garden at Amherst.
Questions from the gentleman? Okay, emergency services.
Only thing I noted is, our web services week, last night we had our inaugural, lawn service, we went on very well. We worked with the CEO clerk for supporting us in that. If anybody would like to attend the barbecue tomorrow, there's one in Napanee tomorrow, we're up in Northbrook. Earlier this week.
I'm told Paul Osborne makes the best burgers.
He does make it.
So that's the one. HR.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Nothing for me. It's just a report.
Questions for HR? And infrastructure services.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have anything to add or highlight. I'll answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Wagner? Then I'd get a motion to receive those reports. Councillor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hogg. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We have a resolution before us from the town of Coburg about Ontario Works financial assistance rates. What are council's wishes?
Given my just have a resolution because the net will essentially. So I make a motion to receive.
Motion to receive is on the floor. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Richardson. Any discussion on that? Call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Matters for information, Child Care Initiative funding. Questions on that? Bill 17 notification. Rabies control operation. Provincial economic updates. Can I get a motion to receive? Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Calvert. For the discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Statements by members. Are there any statements by members? I have two. The first is, he is very proudly and deservedly wearing it tonight. But our very dear friend, Councillor Hogg, is a recipient of the King's Coronation Medal for his many years of service to municipal government and public service. So I feel we all owe him a round of applause.
Support that I've had everyone all the table and I don't know what's about it. Possible. It's been 40 years. I believe. Thank you.
Also, on the issue of congratulations, our own Chief Administrative Officer, Brenda Orchard, takes her position as president this year of the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. So she also deserves our congratulations. And lastly, I just want to recognize Councillor Lorna Willis at the back. She is the councillor for Amherst Island. She set up all these chairs for me because that's what we do. And actually, he left on the last vote, but Councillor Broderick is another councillor from Loyalist Township who was here as well. So I just wanted to shout out to them. Last call for statements by members. Seeing none, we move to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Any matters of urgency? We come to bylaws, the medical tiered response agreements, 3 readings. Councillor Calver, second by Councillor Fritsch. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Stop signs at intersections, readings. Deputy, seconded by Councillor Davison. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And lastly, our confirmation of proceedings. Counselor Hogg, seconded by Counselor Richardson. All those in favor? Was carried, and don't worry, everybody will definitely make the vote. Call for adjournment. Seconded by the deputy. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned at 22 minutes after 8.